On this episode of Hudson Valley Hustle, I'm joined by John Ragusa, owner of the Imperial Castle, which is a vintage toy shop in Pawling. He's been in business for 7 years now, and he never thought he would get this far, but now he's even being called in for television shows because of his shop. This is a great episode for any collector or aspiring entrepreneur. You're definitely going to enjoy it. But before we get into it, if you're looking for video content, social media marketing, or you just want your business to go viral so you can get more customers, hire us at Vivo Creative. That's what we do. We've gotten almost 1 billion views for our small business clients right here in the Hudson Valley. And if you want the opportunity to work with us, just visit our website and hire us before your competition does. Enjoy the episode. Have you always been a collector? When did it start? When did the whole collecting thing start for you?
Later, once I had my son was like 4 years old, and so let's say 2006. And I wanted him to have some of the Star Wars figures that I had as a kid. So I went on eBay and I just bought a bunch of loose, incomplete Star Wars figures. And that was it. And we played with them, had fun. He grew out of it and decided to start getting into Transformers. And when he did, I was going to go and just sell them back on eBay. And instead, I was like, I got an empty bookshelf. I'm like, no, screw it. I'll just stand them up on my bookshelf. And then I'm staring at it, and I'm like, well, I already got like 30 or 40 figures. I wonder how many they made. Well, I mean, that's not so hard. Maybe I'll try to complete the set. That'll look cool in my bookshelf, all my Star Wars figures, And that was literally how it started in 2006. Figured by the time he was done playing with them, 2007. So that was,
now he's not allowed to play with anything.
That was that's my origin story for like how I had Star Wars stuff around my bachelor pad when I was single and stuff like that. But once I got married, all that stuff went in a box and never really thought about it for years. The one last thing I ever had was a life-size Yoda. And the year my wife and I got married, or probably maybe the first or second Christmas, we were like a typical starting out family. We had no money, it was we were not living paycheck to paycheck, but we weren't, what's the word I'm looking for?
We weren't swimming
established.
Yeah.
So I sold it because I got like $700 for it. I could buy Christmas gifts, and and again, it wasn't a heroic thing. It just was like, it's just sitting there. Someone will pay me money for it. What the hell? And then that was kind of like it went blank. I never really thought about collecting anything. It was just sort of a thing.
Gotcha. So from not really thinking about it to now having a store in Pawling dedicated to that kind of stuff, what took you to that point?
A couple of things. I mean, after I got more involved in collecting Star Wars, I was interacting on forums, like, pre-Facebook days. So there were dedicated websites to Star Wars and collecting toys and stuff like that. So I started doing Star Wars a lot. And then I was like, well, I got all my Star Wars figures, and then I was like, let me expand a little bit, and I started doing like carded Star Wars figures, then foreign Star Wars figures. So that was most of my focus. And then once in a while, I'd pick up like a G.I. Joe, or like I had one Transformer as a kid, so I found it, and I was like, and then I started getting more and more involved in the hobby aspect, but just as a fun thing to do. And then I would buy collections, keep what I wanted, sell the others, to kind of self-fund. Yep. And I was pretty satisfied with that. And it took one bad manager at my job to piss me off just enough. And we just didn't see eye to eye. And I had a feeling the end was coming at some point because the company I worked for got bought out a few times. And older guys like myself with high base salaries, they were just like, I just think they were looking for excuses. So this new guy comes in, absolutely hates me. I don't like him. And he kind of told me, like, he put roadblocks up to keep trying to make me fail. Mm-hmm. And I told my wife, I got 1 year left. I don't think I'm going to make it. 6 months to what's called ramp into my new position. If I don't make criteria, 3 months of what they call PIP, Performance Improvement Plan, which is really called pre-fire. So 3 months of that, then 2 months, 1 month, and I'm gone. So I said to my wife, like, in a year, I'm going to probably get fired. I'm like, I think I'd like to work for myself. Like, I don't enjoy working for anybody anymore. And so we thought about it. And what ended up, short version, at the end of 6 months, I actually made my goals. and thought to myself, holy cow, like I've just bought myself some time here. And this guy found like an obscure part of my compensation plan that is something really not in my control. Well, you didn't do that, so we're going to write you up anyway. And I said, I'm like, I've been here almost 17 years. I've never been written up. I've never been on a plan before. I'm like, I won multiple awards in this company. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to let you be the guy. I'm like, but I got to call my wife. And I hung up on him. I called my wife and I'm like, Jen, I told her what happened. And, we already kind of understood that there was a baseline. I'm like, I think I want to do it. And my wife has a lot of faith in me with salesmanship. And she goes, look, she goes, you don't fail when it comes to these type of things. She goes, do we have a plan? I'm like, look, we have enough money. We can last 9 months. 9 months from now, things are going to get hard if this blows up. I go, so why don't we do this? Give me 9 months to be successful. If by 9 months I don't see this working, I close, I liquidate whatever I have, I go out, I'll find a job. I'm incredibly employable. Give me 9 months to, see if this is heading in the right direction. So my wife, who was a Brooklyn native, gave me some expletives to tell my boss. I did not use them. I just politely said, I called him back. I go, I'm done. I'm like, I'm just going to give you my 2 weeks notice. And he was like, I don't think he expected it, but I think he kind of expected, because he knew my personality, and I was not going to let someone like him ever get the satisfaction.
But I feel, but guys like that sometimes don't think that you have the balls to do that. Right?
I kind of wonder about it in hindsight, but he clearly had a bug up his rear end about me. I was one of those guys, I was in sales. If you've been in a sales company for 17 years, you're probably really good because they wash out people left and right. So I had a lot of salespeople that would come to me before they go to management because I was like in the trenches with them, and you kind of become, you're one of them, but you've got some extra ability. So I don't think he liked that, and I don't know why. He came from a European background where their business methodologies are, I think, a little more rigid than the Americanized versions of it. So he was like this proper European, and I'm just a loud Italian guy who grew up in the Bronx, and we probably were not, if this was a sitcom, it would be a good, he's an out of water, but we just didn't click, and that was it. So November 1st, 2017, he called me. I resigned November 1st, 2017. November 2nd, I Googled, open a toy store fast. Found out how to, what I needed to do. There was an empty storefront in my neighborhood that I had talked to the people who owned it. I'm like, hey, I might be down the line if you don't rent this place. I got a funny feeling I might want to call them up. I go, hey, can we meet? Yeah. This is my favorite part of all of this is the guy he was asking a fair rent. It was not an unfair price at all. And I say to him, let me tell you what's going to happen here. I'm like, I'm going to open a toy store. I'm like, and it's probably going to fail. I'm like, because opening up a toy store is stupid. Opening up a toy store in Pawling is even stupider. I'm like, so here's what I'll do. I'll give you 50% of what you're asking for. But I'm going to pay you right now for a year. And here's the deal. If I close in 3 months, money's all yours. If I fail at any point, money's all yours. So I'm going to write you a check right now. You're going to take it. We're good. And that's that. And if I fail tomorrow, or if I never open the door, I don't want any of the money back. I will waive everything. And I'm like, because I'm going to fail. I mean, this is stupid. The guy is like, can I talk to my family for a little bit? He walks out, he comes back in, he's like, I've been doing this my whole life. Guy's probably in his 70s, maybe probably late 70s. He goes, no one has ever made that no one's ever tried to convince me to give me better rent because you're going to fail. He's like, you're not going to fail. He goes, I think you're going to be okay. He goes, so here's my counter. I'll take it. 1 year from now, if you're successful, you got to pay the rent I want. I said, you got a deal. Stroked him a check right there, paid for a year's rent. That was November 10th. November 15th was my last day at my company.
Wait, less than 2 weeks after you, okay.
November 15th was my last day at my company because I had a client base I had to hand people off. I had to do meetings and stuff like that. So November 15th, I went down to Manhattan, handed in my laptop, All I had left, I had my cell phone, I got on the train, and I headed home November 15th. I opened the door to that store November 27th with the worst inventory you've ever seen in your life. It's exactly what you can imagine someone who's now had less than 3 weeks to form a company and open a store and get inventory. I opened up a nearly empty store. I mean, I jokingly tell people, like, I had 4 Monopolies and I put them side by side on a shelf. No depth.
I know exactly what you mean. That's great.
You know,
That's
it's like when you ever watch a movie where they try to fake a city and it's like,
Sure.
just get the store up and it's only the front of the store.
Yeah.
You know, it was like that. The place was just empty.
That's funny.
And I was like, okay, like I got 9 months. And you know, we started off with, you know, I borrowed 40 grand, spent just about every penny of it, and that was it. November 27th, I opened up the front door. I did have someone buy something, bought a Star Wars Cantina set, like the vintage Star Wars Cantina, and that was my first register sale. One guy bought a Funko Pop, I think a day before, but I didn't even have a register yet. So I just literally had to take his $40 and put it in a cash box until my register arrived.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. So that was, wait, what year was that?
That was 2017.
Wow. Okay. So this is 7 years.
It'll be 7 years in a couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Good for you, man.
it took off. Like I tell people
So,
I don't understand how it works. Like it shouldn't. But
yeah.
it does.
But I think that kind of is what makes it work. Like it's almost like I got to see this in real life to believe that this exists almost,
people,
right? Like
people come in all the time and they're like, how long you been open? 7 years. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, they're like, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, that's the reaction I have. I'm as shocked as you are. Like, this shouldn't work.
I love that.
I have a small toy store in a small Dutchess County town. I have no parking. I'm like, none of this should work at all. Like,
and you don't sell online?
A little bit, not much.
Yeah, but that's what so
I mean, I do. Well, let me rephrase that. Yes, I sell online, but mostly through interactions with collectors. I don't have a web store.
Yep.
I don't ship new toys.
It's
because,
wild.
well, I mean, it
The margins are probably terrible on the new stuff.
So it's funny. When I was thinking about stuff to talk about, you know, opening like any kind of a business is like, it's just littered with contradictions, right? So part of me is like, you follow the art of war, right? Art of war. What's the first thing? You don't fight a fight unless you can win it, right? But also you have to be willing to take risks and fail. So which one do
you trust? Yeah.
So when I opened the store, I looked at the margins on new toys, and I figured out the time it would take me to pull an item off the shelf, make it, even if the transaction online was automated. So I don't have to do anything. I just get an email that says, pack this up, ship it there. By the time I took the time to pull it off the shelf, pack it up correctly, slap a label on it, tape a box shut, put it by the mailbox, half hour, right? Just randomly, you know, because it's not always going to be, the process isn't a half hour, but the start to finish, because I have to deal with customers who come in, if the phone rings, and I said, okay, why am I going to do that to make $3? And I decided right then and there, I said, you know what? Walmart, Kmart at the time, Toys R Us at the time, all these Amazon, it's yours. You take that business. I don't need it. I mean, I need it, but I don't want it. Because I always tell people, look at things from a labor cost. Could I find someone to pack me 2 boxes an hour for $6? No one would reasonably take that job. Why would I take that myself? So I jettisoned the idea of being a web store. And it worked out great. I don't need that customer base because financially it doesn't make sense. Would I love to have it? I mean, of course. I'd love for everyone to walk in and just go, I don't need you to ship to me, I'll just buy it. So that's the customer that works best with the shop. And because we're an experience type of store, that's the benefit. Nobody is coming to me because I have the lowest price and the hottest items. You're coming to me because it's fun. You walk around, you know, I call it my Ace Rothstein, like in casino. You glad hand people, how you doing, slap them on the back. You know, I have fun. They have fun. So people come in and look, do they know they're paying $2 or $3 more for an item? Of course they do. Sometimes I'm exactly the right price as one of the big box stores. Usually, I have found I have about $3 leeway before somebody might be like,
Yeah, I'll just Amazon it or something. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that $3 is kind of like where I know, as long as I'm priced within striking distance of a big box store, the experience of coming to me, the experience of shopping small, that's the benefit. So I made that the focus of the business, not hottest items, lowest prices, I'll
Right.
ship it out to you.
Impossible.
Not,
it's
not
impossible.
worth it.
Yeah.
No.
So as far as like, so people are coming to you because of, like you said, they're coming to you because of the experience. I also assume it's not so much for the new toys. It's for
The collectible side
for
of
the
it.
collectible side of things.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I do my math, I'd probably say 80% of my profit and about 70% of my gross retail is coming from the vintage side of the house. But it doesn't take away from the new toy side.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
being a small toy shop in a small town, it's endearing. People gravitate to it. They like it. And it's also a little synergistic. If a guy comes in with his kid and he wants to go and stare at G.I. Joe figures for the last, that he had as a kid, go find yourself something in the aisle.
Sure.
And the kids will come out with an LOL, or they'll come out with a Nerf gun, or they'll come out with a pack of Pokemon cards, or a Marvel Legend. So it actually it probably helps my vintage sales by keeping the family sort of intact in the same building, because the longer the kids are looking for stuff, the longer the father or the mother can enjoy themselves and find stuff that they liked.
I think one of the reasons why you're successful and you've been in business for 7 years, even to your own surprise, is that the nostalgia thing has been massive in the last 4 years. There's no question that guys that are my age and up, and even maybe even a little bit younger, are looking for the stuff they had as kids.
Yeah.
And if they can walk into a place and physically see the G.I. Joe figure or the whatever it is, the Star Wars figures, they're going to go there. Like I want to go there, right? So
absolutely. And it's fun. I mean, I see these guys come in. I've seen guys come in that are just pissed off because they have to go buy like a gift for like your kid for a birthday party. And they're just like, they don't want to be out on a Saturday morning. And I'll see them like, just go find something for your friend. And they'll turn around and see like Transformers. And they'll be like, is that like is that the first Optimus Prime? Yeah. Yeah, that's an original G1 Optimus Prime. I had that. And they'll go grab their kids. Guys, you got to see this. Your uncle had Megatron. I had Optimus Prime because I got all the good. And they disarm. And they become like in so much a better mood. Because it sparks something up in us. Everyone's got a story. It's like poker players that have their bad beats. Yet like, oh, I gave that to my friend and he broke it. I wish I could get it back. I remember my mom dragged me out of Toys R Us because I was screaming that I wanted Soundwave and she wouldn't buy me him. She's like, I'm going to get it now. I'm going to take a picture and send it to my mom that I finally got Soundwave. And like, it's one of those things that I think, even if you're not a collector, everyone loves nostalgia. And that nostalgia, like it just brings it right up to the surface. And when you have it in your hand and you can hold it and see it, I think it just puts smiles on your face. Like it's one of those things that you don't know you had it in you, but like it's crazy some of the stories I've heard people give me that have a relationship to a toy they saw. Mm-hmm. I'll make one quick one. I watched a grown man literally start to tear up and cry a little bit because he saw Ultra Magnus, which was a G1 Transformer. He was Robert Stack in the Transformers movie. He was also the only one who cursed. He said, damn. And I thought, like, as a kid, I'm like, oh, he said, damn it. Oh, my God. But the story was that the guy was estranged from his own parents. I guess his parents just weren't a good mom and dad, whatever. And his aunt sort of pseudo took him in. So this kid would spend almost his whole life at his aunt's house. And she surprised him and bought Ultra Magnus. And he lost it at some point in his life, And he stood there telling his wife the story. She never knew this. So he's like, that's Ultra Magnus. And and you're hearing him like when I first started living with, I can't remember her name anyway, but Aunt Peggy, we'll just say, with Aunt Peggy. You remember one day we went down to Woolworths and he's telling the story and I'm behind him like, oh my God. And it brought out something in him. They leave. I get a phone call like 20 seconds later. I can't talk about all dramatic. Just click. The guy went to CVS to go pick up like a bottle of water before they drove home. And she called me to say, and she came back the next day and bought it for him and held it for like almost a year. I think they bought it in like, I think it was like in April, and she gave it to him for like Christmas. But she's like, I'm not going to lose that opportunity.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, I freaking love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
How good do you feel about like being able to provide that to somebody?
Sure.
Like that's an awesome thing. Like, I'm
eBay can't do that.
Exactly.
It's hard for eBay to do that.
I mean, the
they do their thing, but
I mean, look, the easy joke is like, you always hear people like Amazon doesn't put up a banner at your kid's little league game.
Sure, yeah.
So we provide things to the community in generality, but like that's like a memory.
You made that guy's year.
Yeah. Well, she did. She
did. Yeah.
But the fact that I can even be a part of it is like the coolest thing in the
That's
world.
awesome.
Like I've never had that. Like I never had that level of job satisfaction. Like my wife's a brilliant nurse practitioner. She saves lives. That is fulfilling.
Sure.
I never had that. So even like, we'll come home and I remember one day she's like, I had a crazy day. I was massaging a guy's heart on a gurney. And I'm like, yeah, I sold a guy like 9 phones, so we both had a good day. So up until like I was in my, late 40s, I didn't have anything where I felt good.
Yeah.
I was transactional.
Funny. Yeah.
And now I get to like experience, and like it's so much fun seeing people smile, laugh. Like
That's
kids,
great.
I'm still not comfortable with it, but like I get hugs from kids all the time, and like I just don't know how to.
What do I do?
Yeah, especially not even in this day and age. Like in general, like I just don't. I never went to a store where I felt I needed to hug anyone who.
But you're the
there.
guy, though, right? Like you're the face of it. So I mean, that
I'm Mr. Toy Man to some of the kids,
exactly.
and Mr. John, and I got kids who come in and they will literally just come barreling through the store and just jump. John, I'm here, and like, hey, buddy, how are you? And I get drawings, I get cards.
Yeah,
I get kids who come in like, I went to camp and I made this for you. Like, how do you even properly thank something like that?
Yeah.
So like I have a rule, if anything comes into the store from a kid, it's hung up somewhere or it never comes down. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So if you ever come in, you'll see cards stapled to the walls. There's little drawings stapled to the walls. I've had kids make me little action figures. They're on my register.
It's perfect.
I make sure that nothing will ever come down. And when I close, retire, whatever, that all gets packed up somewhere. It'll never go in the garbage. My wife hates that because I'm not really a hoarder, but I'm probably overly sentimental about things.
Yep.
Like that will stay with me because I'm like it's just an amazing thing to be able to do a job that's not designed for that level of satisfaction and to get that level of satisfaction from it.
That's amazing. You're living the dream, basically.
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
You really are. I mean, you really are. Like, who gets to go to work and
actually enjoy themselves?
Right. It's not as common as it should be.
I know. You don't think I never thought about it. My wife and I fought about this for years. I said if your job was fun, they wouldn't pay you to do it. So my life was based on that philosophy. I did sales jobs from 1993, till 2017, right? Always selling. And I was really good at it. I did very well for myself. I mean, I got no complaints from the financial side of it, but I never did anything I felt was substantial to like the world. Like it was transactional business and that was it. Like there's
nothing wrong with that. Like you need it. Like the world needs that, obviously.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. If anything, I think it gave me a better appreciation for how lucky I am now. Like
sure.
I don't think I would, and I deal with other toy store owners across the country because it's a very small group of people. And I listen to people kind of piss and moan sometimes. And it's funny, it's the guys who've been doing this since they were in their 20s that piss and moan about stuff that's really not that big of a deal. And I say to myself, you know what? It's because they started at 25 if they had worked and did something they didn't like until they were 45, like I did, I think they'd understand the appreciation of how lucky it is to do what you do. Like, I'm glad I did something I hated for so long. It's kind of like the way when my wife and I got married, we had pretty much nothing. I appreciate everything I have now because I didn't have it. Mm-hmm. I think if you get married, I think you should walk out of your wedding, pay your bills, and have like $30 to your name. That's the way to do it. When we bought our first house, we walked out of the house. We walked out of the closing. We had $48 to our name. We owed $6,500 to her parents, my parents, and my brother-in-law because we needed money to close on our condo. We had $48, and we went out and we had Chinese food for lunch. And we were like, well, now we officially have nothing. We're worth negative $6,500. And I look back and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did that. I'm glad we had a house that the windows were painted shut because they were so crappy and we couldn't open them.
Yeah.
I think you need to start from nothing to work your way up because I think if you don't, I think it's harder to appreciate. It's not impossible, but it's definitely gives you a better perspective on things.
I agree. I know you're on a schedule today too,
Yeah.
and there's two other things.
Yeah,
it's all good. No. There's a couple other things I want to cover. First of all, how did the store lead to you being on TV?
So funny, I was contacted out of the blue. I've been on, so we'll do it this way. Let's do Collector's Call, because I've been on a couple of other things.
Yeah.
But Collector's Call is kind of like where I currently seem to be lucking my way into this show. I got a phone call on a Thursday, randomly from a producer, and they're like, hey, you have a toy store in New York, right? Yeah. Listen, I do a show, it's called Collector's Call, and, are you familiar with it? And unfortunately, I was like, no, yes, no. And they were like, we're coming to New York and we're doing a TV episode on action figures. We watched some of your videos on Facebook. You're pretty funny. Would you consider coming on and being the toy expert? I'm like, yeah, I guess, sure. And she's like, well, we got to interview you formally. Are you free tomorrow? I said, sure. Friday, I get on a Zoom call with, I think, 3 people. And that was it. And I was like, okay. And I don't hear anything back. So months go by and I get an email, hey, we're going to be there in August. Do you want to do it? I'm like, sure. We'll put you up in a hotel overnight. I'm like, oh my God. It's the day after my wife's birthday. So I'm like, why don't we go out to dinner on Long Island for your birthday and come with me the next day? And I was I was a wreck. Funny thing is, I'm always a wreck on things I do well. If I'm terrible at something, I go in with an unabashed level of confidence. That's why I'm the worst softball player of all time. Bases loaded, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, or bottom of the 7th in softball. I want to be at the plate. I'm going to strike out or I'm going to ground out. But I want to be at the plate because I'm that confident in myself. Doing things I'm good at, I am always a wreck. I don't know why that happens. But I did the one episode and I was like, this was the coolest thing I ever did. Oh my God. It's hosted by Lisa Welcher, who played Blair on The Facts of Life.
Okay.
And, every guy my age grew up just with an enormous crush on her. So I'm standing next to this woman I had a crush on doing TV. Like, oh my God. And that was it. I thought it was finished. Next year, I'm down with a bunch of friends of mine, and I see a phone number from Chicago, and I'm like, hello? Hey, it's collected. It's Diana. Hey, Diana, how are you? Good. Listen, you want to come back this season? Do a couple more? I'm like, yeah. Like, all right, we're going to send you out to New Jersey. And it was dolls and pizza. And this woman who had the Guinness World Record for pizza. And I'm like, Diana, is there such a thing as a pizza expert? She goes, no. She goes, there's no one on the planet who can be a pizza expert, but we all talked and we said, John's pretty funny. If it's going to be anybody, just grab John. He can become and I did I do tons of research before we air. I have notes. So I can talk intelligently about it if given enough time. And I did pizza and then I did dolls, which I did have some familiarity with.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Oh my God. And I'm like, well, this was a good run. This year I get a phone call. I did 5. So I went
amazing.
from 1 to 2 to 5, and this time they flew me somewhere. That is the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. I was put on a plane and paid to go talk about toys in Michigan for 2 days, and then fly back home, and then do New York and do Connect. I did an episode like 10 minutes from here.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is. I mean, I don't find myself particularly entertaining. I know that people find me entertaining, but I don't find myself that amusing. So it's weird, but it's cool. Like, it's just, I'm going to say it's kind of a testament to, if nothing else, maybe my ability to not be afraid to take that one big leap 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. Because I look back on it, and I told somebody if I ever wrote a book, it would be called, what was it? From dank gray cube to the boob tube in 7 years. I'm like, I sat in a cubicle 7 years ago, never thinking 7 years later.
It's insane. It's not that long of a time, man.
It's not.
It's
and
really
as you get older, time goes by way faster.
7 years ago, like my kid, is 8 now, and I'm like, that is nothing.
My youngest is 23. I don't even have kids anymore. Like, I have adults. Like, it's crazy how fast they go.
You're the kid now. Like, you're the one that's going to work.
I've always been, but that was it. I mean, I wish there was a better story of how it happened, but I was entertaining on Facebook. I make sure I interact with my audience.
Crazy.
And that's it. I mean, that's the lesson. If you're running a small business and you're the face of it, you got to sell it's actually, there it is. My first real boss I ever respected was a guy named Larry Brodsky. He used to, hey now, Larry. I love this guy. I just saw him for the first time in 30 years. He happened to be near a place I was visiting. And the place we worked at was called Tops. And the motto for learning how to sell yourself, sell the business, sell the product. Yourself came before anything else. Mm-hmm. You sell yourself, then you sell your company, and then you sell your product. And I think the reason I interact so much with my customer base, and the reason I do TikToks and Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of social media stuff, is because a lot of people don't shop at the Imperial Castle. Castle? A lot of people don't shop.
It's fancy.
I channeled that English guy who I didn't like. The people don't shop at the Imperial Castle. They come to hang out and shop with John. And I don't like that, because I want to feel the brand is bigger than I am. But I get it. I do get it. Yeah. It's one of those things where
But you wouldn't have I don't think you would have those experiences that you had with that guy, with the kids, with all that, if that was the case.
Yeah. I guess it's one of those things where I don't believe I am the type of person that people gravitate to as much as I actually have people gravitate to me. And it's not me being like, it's not a humble brag or anything like that. Like, again, I don't find myself that amusing. I am incredibly grateful that anyone walks into my door and wants to do business with me. Like, I'm always grateful. And it's funny because the reciprocity there feels unfair. Like, they should never be giving me a gift. They shouldn't be thanking me or hugging me or being grateful. Like, that should be 100% from me to them. So it's weird getting that back and weird having it come back. But, maybe that, I think part of it is people know that about me. Like, anyone who shops with me regularly, like, I'm very on my sleeve about how I am. And I think people realize, like, that it is me just trying to be grateful. Or if I'm uncomfortable, it's because I'm uncomfortable because I'm so happy that they're happy. Mm-hmm. And I think it shines through. So people want to come and do business with me. They want to talk. Most guys that come in, I mean, we're like a sitcom some days. I have regulars who come in for hours and just mull around.
Sure.
We're talking about every pop culture nerdy thing you could imagine. I got guys who come in, I'm going to say indentured servitude. Like, they'll literally come in and be like, dude, what happened in the back? Oh, I took in a huge G.I. Joe collection. All right, I'll see you later. And they'll go back there and just start opening boxes, laying things out, putting things together, matching weapons with no expectation of anything.
It's amazing.
And it's like I'm so grateful to have that. And I'm glad, I guess I'm glad it shows, because I don't want anyone to ever think that I feel like I deserve any of it. And part of I think keeping your business successful is probably that. Like, keep in mind, you don't deserve anything. Yeah. You earn what you have.
Of course.
And the minute you take advantage of it, you have no one to blame but yourself if it fails.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. I want to know what you brought here.
I brought one thing to at least
we'll do that before we wrap it up. This is here. Do your thing.
Absolutely. So when Star Wars came out, nobody expected it to be a hit. I mean, if you've never heard, CBS Fox, who owned the company, who put out Star Wars, actually almost cashed in their insurance policy, where the insurance company would have owned Star Wars and they would have taken the payout because they were so afraid it was going to bomb.
Yeah.
Star Wars becomes this massive hit. And they realize they can't get toys out for Christmas because this came out in May.
Okay.
So May of 1977, they're like, we can't get toys made to go under the tree. So what Star Wars did was this showed up under your tree. It's just a big envelope. Inside the envelope was a stand, a cardboard stand, to put your Star Wars figures on when you got them, because you had a mail-away coupon in here to get 4 action figures. You got Princess Leia, Luke, Chewbacca, and R2-D2. And you would get them in the spring of 1978.
Wow. Yeah.
So Christmas morning, you opened up this envelope, you mailed away a coupon, you got a stand that you couldn't use, you got a Star Wars fan club wallet square, for every 6-year-old who has a wallet. And you got a sticker that said, "May the Force be with you."
That is the coolest thing. On it. Is that complete?
This is missing a couple of things, but it's mostly complete.
Now, was that yours? Was that from a collection?
This was from a collection.
That's amazing. And what does that even go for now? What's that going up for?
In this shape, it's probably about $700.
It's amazing. But why has it got a JC Penny sticker on it?
That's where they bought it from.
And what did it? What was the sticker?
What did it retail for?
What was the retail?
$8.88.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing.
If I look back and I say what changed my life, Star Wars was probably the biggest influence on my life. And this would have been what started the whole toy collecting craze, would have been this little envelope right here. So for every disappointed kid who got this under their tree instead of a toy, thank you.
That's so good.
Yeah, you created a hype that is now, 1977. So nearly 50 years in the making. But I figured I'd share something with you.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. So you can find stuff like this at the Imperial Castle.
Castle, yeah. Absolutely. It's pop culture. Star Wars, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Mask, He-Man, all the stuff, Turtles, Power Rangers, everything. If it has a pop culture sort of flair to it, we have a pretty good selection.
All right. I got to tell you something I'm looking for is if you have it in the store.
Oh boy.
We're going to, yeah. It's the, all right. You remember the Power Rangers, the flip heads? They were called the Automorphin
I know exactly
Rangers.
What they are.
I'm looking for like 4 of them in box.
So I actually have, I think I have 2. The ones that came with the motorcycles, but I think they are the flip heads.
So these were just the flip heads by themselves. They were the
standalone figures.
The standalone flip heads. They had a weapon or 2, and they had a tattoo as well.
And they came in the little green box with the cellophane front window.
There you go.
I'll do my best to try to find them for you.
All right, I'm going to keep in touch with you on Instagram because that's absolutely. Where's the shop, and how can people get in touch with you, and where can they shop?
Absolutely. So the shop is in Pawling, New York. Address is 33 East Main Street. So if you happen to be a Pawlingite, across from CVS, we're on the corner. There's a 7-foot Optimus Prime standing out front. You cannot miss him.
Gotcha. And then, it's a destination. This sounds like a destination.
It is definitely it's a fun time. Even if you don't buy anything, you will absolutely enjoy walking around. And then I'm on all the social medias, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, just at the Imperial Castle. You'll find us. And don't shop online because our online website is horrible because I want you to come to the store and enjoy yourself.
You can go and look at stuff like this. You can
No,
go and
you
look
can't.
at No, in your store I'm saying. You got to go to the store and look at stuff like this and hold it.
Come to me. But you know what? If any collector watches this who's not from the area, I get this all the time. Message me. Hey, do you have this? Yes. I'll send it to you. We ship all over the world. I've shipped to every continent on the planet except Antarctica. If a penguin's out there and wants to buy something, that would be awesome to clean out that. I've shipped. I used to keep count, but I think I've shipped to like 69 countries, and what are there, like 220 sovereign states, I think, or something like that. So I've shipped to almost half of the countries on the planet. Here, great example. In my car right now are the 12-inch vintage Star Wars figures. A guy bought 8 of them, and they are going to Berlin. As soon as I leave here, they're going to the post office to go to Berlin.
So cool.
So yeah, it's definitely a cool thing.
Absolutely. I will definitely make a trip. I have to make a trip for sure.
Come over.
Absolutely.
I'll give you the nickel tour.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. This was a blast. I love it. Your personality is amazing. Congrats on the show.
Thank you.
And just everything.
Appreciate you even listening to me for this long.
I love it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.